Hi everyone, MJ here. Let me put the little comments widget on here, you know. I gotta tell you though, this is the creepiest place I have ever live streamed from. Even though there's houses right behind me, I'm not using. Hey Rob, fist bump. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Even though I'm not using the wireless mic, I'm gonna talk kind of low. I think you can hear me. Hey, Ken Rod and Mike, how's it going? All right, fist bump to you guys. Listen, I meant to I meant to come on tonight. I appreciate it, Rob. Thanks. I meant to come on in 360 because this is the creepiest place I've ever been, and I just couldn't get it to connect. See, what happens is the 360. Hey, Dean, fist bump. The 360 connects to the camera using Wi-Fi, and then the camera has to connect to the internet using the mobile connection, and sometimes there's a disconnect where the phone doesn't want to use the mobile, you know, if Wi-Fi is connected, but the Wi-Fi is connected to the camera, so it doesn't do anything. But what I'm doing is I'm recording. I have the camera, the 360 camera on in record mode. So I'm going to record this whole thing, but even though there's houses right here, I mean, here's what this thing looks like. This is a park, and you know the park where I usually live stream from, and I told you guys that it had been undergoing some demolition, right? Oh, and the reason I'm not using the wireless mic is because there's so many mosquitoes here that I actually have my little pocket fan, and it's blowing on my face to keep the mosquitoes off my face. Now, there's my bike. But this place is severely overgrown. I mean, these are the plants and stuff that's right here, you know. And there's the other park over there. But this place is just, you know, there's some houses over here. But it just looks creepy at night, you know. And there's some kids swings over there, and little, you know, there's little animals with the springs on them, you know. And then down here, this is another kind of like a trellis, and it goes off into the dark. But over here is another pathway, and that pathway goes nowhere. So anyway, it just seems real like. Anyway, been a while since I've been on, and yeah, I'm going to East Taiwan on Monday morning. Thanks, Mike. Monday morning, I'm going to East Taiwan. I'm doing a couple tours on HeyGo, and if you go to the realtaiwan.tv, right? Oh, it does. I'm recording this in 360, right? And I'm using 32 ISO 3200, so it'll be kind of grainy. Try to pick up the light, but I'll make some clips and throw them up on YouTube of this creepy place, and you guys will see what I'm talking about. But it's just quiet, and there were a couple like stray dogs barking. Sometimes they can be a problem. They come up to you, they can be aggressive sometimes. Most of the time they're not, but sometimes they are. But I got, you know, multiple battery banks out here with me right now, and one in particular I have connected to the 360 camera because I want to keep it going. It normally has a battery life of about 50 to 60 minutes depending, and so I just don't want to run out of battery. But yeah, my voice has been shot lately. I don't know why. Been doing some exercises, and yesterday I did some vocal practice. I just need to do more. That's the big problem, is I'm not singing anymore. I'm not doing any live gigs, you know. I'm not keeping my skills up, so. But as I was starting to say, Monday, I'm going to East Taiwan. I'm going to be staying at Andreas's place, the Green Farm. Now, if you guys use Google Maps, which everybody does, you can look up the Green Farm in Taiwan, and you can see what he's doing. He's doing amazing stuff, and you guys know him. You know Andreas. And so I'm going to bring my guitar, and I said I'm going to bring a Dutch oven. And he's been feeling bad because I have been kind of not feeling good. I've been having bad problems with my back pain, and sciatica, and haven't been sleeping well and stuff. So he decided to make a big batch of that cinnamon liquor for me. I don't think it'll be ready when I'm there, but he decided to. So I'd asked him a couple of weeks ago if he could make some, and he said he was too busy. I said okay. And he told me last night, or 2 days ago, yeah, 2 days ago it was. He told me that I've decided to make a batch of it. So I'm like, holy cow, that's a brother for when you're in distress, when you need, Thing is, right, I heard some comedians and others talk about this, but the truth is you can live without family, but you can't live without friends. And I'm kind of the embodiment of that, because I left home, and went to Boston on my own. I didn't come back for a long time. So, but it's all about friends, And Andreas he's a good man. He works really hard, though. Works really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my guitar, my little karaoke mic. We're just not going to set up a big PA. I'm just going to my little karaoke mic, Bluetooth, to the device, and we're going to. I have to use another device. I can't obviously use the live streaming, device, but I'm gonna use my tablet, and I'm gonna because I do have a tablet, so I'm gonna be using that for running the karaoke. And so I'm going to do some backing tracks, and I'm going to bring a guitar, and we're going to hang out. We're going to do a little cooking. I'll bring my Dutch oven, do a little cooking. I'm also mainly interested to see what he's got. He's got a bunch of cool stuff for food he's been doing, just amazing stuff. And he's got some wines and liquors and beers and things. He's got his own brand of stuff now. So I can't wait. So I'm going to do I'm going to camp, do car camping. What I want to try to do is, there's a share button here, and I should be getting more engagement on Facebook, and I'm not. So I'm going to try to do a share right now, because I think I just press this button, and I think if I just go to Facebook, then select a link, Facebook, and it goes in the background, and it asks me, yep, here's the share, and it asks me who I want to tag. But the thing is, I don't think it can tag everybody. I don't think it can tag all of them at once, because my friend Frank, right, he joins me from, he joins me from Massachusetts, but he joins me on YouTube, and of course Mike, Mike Rundgren, he's here on YouTube. So I'm going to send a couple other people here. I'm just going to try to get some more folks watching here on Facebook and see what can happen. I have a couple of Facebook, actually I have quite a few. They're Facebook followers, who are from Hago. They're not from. Voice stop recording. Oh, I didn't say that. Start recording. I have voice control. On my 360 camera. Oh, this is great. This works fantastic. See, hey Bernardo, fist bump to you. Periscope. Prism just did all that in the background. I was just talking somehow, and my 360 camera interpreted what I said as a command to stop recording. Oh no, it just did it. I shouldn't have said that. Start recording. If I were to say the word shutdown, immediately behind the word, immediately followed by the word camera, it would turn off. It's amazing. So anyway, it's still on. So we'll see how the little Facebook share. See, the thing I don't like about the Facebook share is that it doesn't allow me to press a check mark and just check everybody. But you're absolutely right, Bernardo. Big mosquitoes, and I've got my. You guys have seen this before. These are these little fans that we have here in Taiwan that we hang around our neck, and I have this on medium speed. There are three settings. It's actually quite nice when it's really hot, but I got it on now because it's okay. See, Mike Rundgren, he just liked my share on Facebook, but this blows, the air on my face and keeps the mosquitoes off. When I was in Thailand years ago, I never thought about that when I lived in the States. But in Thailand, you go to an outdoor restaurant and it's just plagued by all kinds of, mosquitoes are just all over the place. And so what they do is they throw a big fan on and they blow the fan at you. And I'm like, why didn't I ever think of that? That's crazy. It's stupid, but yeah, it works great. So let me do this. Let me take the case, the box for the gimbal. There you go. I just want to get it up a little bit more in the air, and I think it looks better. There you go. So I want to welcome everyone on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube Live, and also Band, BAND, which is a kind of a private group that we have. We're also available on the Line app. All right. Now, if you go to Taiwan, or excuse me, you have time. It's my one. You go to the realtaiwan.tv. You can find my Hey-Go tour schedule. And next week, I'm going to East Taiwan. On Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be showing some amazing stuff. The 8-Arch Bridge. And I have a zero shadow day planned for Monday. The problem is, according to the weather report now, but today's Thursday in Taiwan. It's actually Thursday night in Taiwan. So we got Thursday, till Monday when it happens, and anything can happen. But it looks like it's going to be cloudy. And if it's cloudy, I can't do a zero shadow day because I can't show any shadows. That's really unfortunate. But anyway, I want to show you guys something. My what is it? Hang on. What is that from? Oh, okay, I'll show you that. My daughter made something in school, and she's been really, really cool about doing these different projects, right? And she's been doing some projects that actually involve electricity. And so she made this little thing. This is funny. She made a little. Let me move this. She made a little cardboard house. You see, that's the living room down the bottom. You see that? And there's a sofa, and the little square in the back is the TV. And I said, oh, you have a nice modest TV. It's not too big. It's like a 32-inch. It's not like a 85-inch or something. But you see the chairs, and then there's a bookshelf actually is what's behind it. But then on the second floor, up on top, is some other stuff. Now this is funny. She at school got a battery box, and she said she was talking to me, and she's 9 years old. It is, but this is cool. She goes, Papa, I want to do 2 LEDs. I want to do one in the living room and one in the upstairs floor. And I think I should do a parallel circuit instead of a series circuit. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you think? And she gave me some reasons, and they're all correct. I'm like, wow, 9 years old, and she's learning that already. And it's this. I mean, this school is. This is a really cool school. No, not high summer. We have actually, Mike. I'll get back to you on that in just a second, okay? Because I just want to finish talking about this. So her teacher gave her a battery box and some wires and some alligator clips, and taught her how to hook those up, the LEDs, in series. That's amazing because they don't have any dropping resistors, you know. But they seem to. I guess these LEDs are designed to work off of 3 volts directly. So, okay, but that was cool. That was the thing. Well, here's the thing about Zero Shadow. There's actually an app, Mike, called Zero Shadow, Zero Shadow Day. It's an app, and you know it shows you the places around the world. But you know you're talking about places that are on the tropics. You know, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. We're on the Tropic of Cancer here in Taiwan, and I'm pretty sure that I have in my YouTube studio. Well, here's the list. Okay, so if you look on the left, the Dragon Boat Festival race is already done. So let's do this. Let's concentrate on these two. This is my East Taiwan series. Is the Zero Shadow Day at the Tropic of Cancer. Now the interesting thing is this is the Tropic of Cancer monument, but it's actually a couple of degrees off, because back in those days the global positioning system did not exist, and they couldn't easily, I mean, they just had to use regular surveying, reckoning methods. They got pretty close, so they're within a couple hundred meters of it. But we have a number of Zero Shadow Days, and this app will show you the lines around the world, you know, that there's a zero shadow, and there's a bunch of them. And so Monday, the 20th, is a Zero Shadow Day right around the Tropic of Cancer. So it's close to the summer solstice, okay? And so the thing is it's the point on the map is actually a couple hundred meters north of this place, but this is an interesting place. And if it's not sunny, I mean, a couple hundred meters, you know, is not going to make any difference, you know, with a star that's that far away. But okay, I guess you could say it was a height of summer, because yeah, it is a solstice. But at any rate, the Tropic of Cancer cuts right across Taiwan, and so we sit on it. And this thing moves up and down, you know, the Zero Shadow Day moves up and down, but we have several of them. Not just one. I think I was checking this the other day. I think I counted 5 different days that have Zero Shadow Days. And even where I live, which is about just straight driving, probably 3.5 hours above the Tropic of Cancer, even here it looks like, you know, zero shadow. I mean, the truth is I could have just gone up on the roof and, you know, put my selfie stick on the tripod and said, oh look, the shadow disappeared. But I wanted to do this at a cool place, you know, and the cool place is the Tropic of Cancer marker. And so these tours are on the HeyGo platform. So you can just check out HEYGO.com. You just go to the realtaiwan.tv, and I have a redirect that will take you to my HeyGo page, and you can look at these. Now, I'm going to do another tour at the amazing 8-arch bridge, okay? And the 8-arch bridge is phenomenal. I've been there 4 or 5 times. It's unbelievable. Every time I go there, I'm kind of awestruck. Took my brother there. You know, he couldn't believe it. I've taken many people there. But the 8 Arch Bridge will be after the Zero Shadow Day. So I'm going to go the Zero Shadow Day and right, you know, like just before noon, before noon and encompassing noon. Then after that, I'm going to drive down to the 8 Arch Bridge. I'm going to show that, and then I'm going to go to Andreas's and spend the night and hang out. We're going to be doing live stream there, cooking and playing guitar, and it's like I'm going to cook in the Dutch oven. He's probably going to smoke. Who knows? He might have some stuff in the smoker. We're going to be drinking some of his custom brews and things. I have a great time, and I got to get some rest. And the next day, I'm going to go back and do a morning show again at the 8 Arch Bridge. And look, I don't care if you guys give me a tip or not or whatever, because Hago is tip supported. And I will just say this: being tip supported, you men, especially that are live streamers, guys on a bike, if you spend money on live streaming, your spouse doesn't understand it. This is just how it is. And so with the Hago tours, you get a couple tips, and it helps. It really, really helps, because it pays for, like, the phone bill or whatever, stuff like, just things like that. So you're never going to make a living, never going to make a lot of money off it, but that doesn't matter. But I don't really care if you guys, that my longtime followers, I don't really care if you don't tip or not. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. But yeah, Ken, the Zero Shadow Day is really interesting, and the reason you never heard of it really is because they don't have it in the States. There's no place in the States that you can get it. That you can get a Zero Shadow Day in the States. No, I'm staying at Andreas's, staying in the farm. I got my van, and I gotta think about this. I have tents and stuff, but I just don't know. See, I gotta be at the bridge at 10 o'clock, and it's about an hour-and-a-half drive, because he lives in the mountains, and it's like, you look at the map, it's like this. It's line-to-line distance, it's like 15 or something kilometers, but it's an hour-and-a-half drive, because you're going like this down switchbacks and all this stuff, because he lives high on a plateau. It's amazing. And so I don't know if I want to take my tent and have to deal with packing that stuff up. I think I might just throw an air mattress in the back of my van. I mean, that's why I got a van, right? And if I take out the back row, I have a full-size camping mattress. I could just pop it in there, But the other thing too is, I do have, it's kind of older, but I have a military, one of those pop-up mosquito nets. You fold it up and you just throw it in the air. It's a little bit short for me. I got it in Thailand, gosh, in like 2005, 2006. Works great. The only problem is mosquitoes, but it might be cool enough. So I don't know. I'm going to bring a sleeping bag and some other stuff. I may just do New Hampshire style, just no tent, no nothing, just out in the open, which I love. The only thing is, there are snakes, and I don't mind snakes. They don't bother me. I'm not really afraid of them. I don't mess with them. I respect them. But snakes often will innocently, crawl into your sleeping bag, because all they're looking for is a place to get warm. And if you roll over on it, then it thinks you're gonna kill it, or even, just as bad. If you wake up in the morning and you unzip and there suddenly is there, and you weren't expecting it, you could do something that would make it want to strike. And what they have in the green farm is they have the green bamboo snakes, and they're deadly. If you get bit by a green bamboo snake, Taiwan has a helicopter medevac system. And so I knew Toby Openshaw, one of the more famous long-term expats in Taiwan. He's from South Africa, and he he's a filmmaker actually. And Ken Ron, thanks. Take care, man. It's good seeing you this evening. I saw you earlier on doing the 3 types of coffee. That was pretty cool. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. And Toby got bit by Russell's viper, and he was in Taipei, and they airlifted him down to Taichung just so he could get the antivenom, and he's alive. And he made it. It was okay. But sleeping outside is amazing. If you got a place where you don't have to worry about it. The thing to do, I think, is in Taiwan, because there are snakes, if you're up in the mountains, you should either sleep on a cot, if you're going to sleep outside. See, like where I lived in New Hampshire, I swear, in 5 years I never even saw a snake. It's a northern latitude. Even in the summertime, the temperature can drop down, especially in the mountains at night. Snakes are just not that prolific. They're not that active. So it's not, sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you. So it was not like I said, I saw more bear. I saw tons of moose. I never saw a snake the whole time I lived in New Hampshire. But first time I ever went to Fushing Mountains, I saw snakes. So, either a tent or a hammock. I gotta see, because maybe Andreas will just have a sofa or something. He's got here's the thing. He told me I could stay for nothing, right? But I don't want to take advantage of his hospitality. It's what I'm saying, because he runs a B&B, and if I stay in one of his rooms and his beds and stuff, he's got to clean it like a paying customer, and I'm not a paying customer. I'm just a pal. So I want to act like a pal and not cause my friend any expense. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think it'll be that hot. And I do have, I can always run an electrical cable over into the car, and I do have fans and stuff, and we use camping fans and things. So I think I'm just going to blow the air mattress up, put it in the back of the car, and then here's what I can do when the night before we can clean up. I'm not going to stay up. We're going to do live stream and stuff, and I'm not going to be drinking heavy and staying up late, because I got to get up, and do the next tour. So I'll probably just break camp up, clean the Dutch oven up, and pack everything up and put it basically in the car ready to go, and I'll just lay down on the mat. Of course, I'm going to bring my Arc 5. You better believe I'm going to bring my Arc 5 razor. I'm going to be shaven and nice and clean for the next day, because I love that. That razor is fantastic. And then, because he also has showers. Because he has a campground, and he's got outdoor showers. Taiwanese people do not go to bed without taking a shower. So, well, actually, Mike, if you have, you should look up the Hennessy hammock. I can't find one in Taiwan. If I want, I could order one on Amazon. But the Hennessy hammock, the way it's designed, not the one with the drop-down entrance, but the slit entrance, it's across the diagonal and stuff. They're not see, the big problem with the hammock is that huge curve, and you wake up the next morning, your back is killing you because you slept you slept inverted, right? And this doesn't do that. It lies flat, But if you want to put an air mattress in there, I guess that's cool. I never heard of anybody doing that. All the Hennessy hammock videos and guys that I have talked to who've used them, they just put a sleeping bag in there. It works great. But sleeping bag in the back of the van, and if I have to run an electrical cable, over to it, and I run a fan or something, because I'm not going to run my engine, even though it's a diesel, and diesels can You can idle diesels all you want. I just don't want the engine running all night just to put AC in the van so I can sleep in the back. But the plan would be that I would be ready to to go the next morning because everything's all packed up. So anyway, I have been intermittent fasting, and I've been generally last couple weeks. I fast from Sunday night to Thursday, so it's 4 days, and I eat over the weekend. And so I just want to show you. Last night there's a place down the street from me, and it's a Taiwan steakhouse. Taiwan steak is significantly different. Taiwan style steak is significantly different. It's a pretty cheap cut of meat. There's some fat on it, which I like fat, and meat fat is actually good. But it's not like, we're not talking a ribeye, we're not talking a sirloin. We call them glue steaks because apparently they're stuck together with food glues from other pieces. But anyway, she has what we call a chicken leg steak and a beef steak. These are two kinds together, and it's funny because the dishes all come with, like you can have pork chicken, you can have pork, you can have beef chicken or beef or chicken. I mean, you can double it up. And they usually have noodles, and I don't eat noodles because of the complex carbohydrates. And then they have on top of that eggs, and it's on a hot plate, right? So in the States, at Chinese restaurants, you guys get those sizzling platters. I'm talking about. It's like that. It's got a wooden base on it and a sizzling platter. They heat the crap, out of the platter, and they cook the steak like halfway and throw it on this platter. And they put your eggs on it, and the eggs cook on the platter. And they put some sauce on this stuff. There's 3 different kinds of sauces. And so yesterday I got a chicken leg and beef steak platter with mushroom sauce, and I had her add a couple of eggs to it. I just want to show you what it looks like, because this thing was 230 NT dollars. Now 30 NT dollars is $1 US. So 200 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 37. So this thing was $7, and this is what it looks like. And the thing about the chicken is that the chicken is deep fried. Now I didn't get any noodles. It normally comes with noodles, but I don't know if you can see this. You see the beef kind of underneath, but there's crispy like fried chicken. I mean, this is like amazing. It's way, way, way better than it looks, and of course it's piping hot. It's just unbelievable. But that's all the chicken pieces, right? And then of course the eggs, and I love eggs, yeah. Well, Mike, there are some companies that do those kinds of things because of course you can use a Peltier device and whatnot. Of course, you've seen the 12-volt refrigerators, right, that work. But there are some alternatives. You can make an evaporative cooler. And when I was young and we didn't have much money, I just moved to Boston, and I was trying to get my first record contract, and just working a job and recording and spending money on recording and trying to gig and stuff. But we were in an apartment. I lived with my publisher. He's now unfortunately deceased. But this is in Boston on Charter Street, in the North End. And the thing about Boston is it's ridiculously cold in the winter and ridiculously hot in the summers. And it's humid. It's unbelievable. People can't believe how hot it is because it's so far north, right? But I remember one time I took a big, I don't know, in inches is probably 14 by maybe 10, one of those, stainless steel, baking dishes, and I filled it up with water as much as I could fit in that thing, and I stuck it in the freezer, and I left it there for 24 hours, and it froze solid. And so what I did was I took that pan out It's just a big block of ice. And I put it on the floor. And I had a box that I had made a cutout, and I had a computer fan that ran off of 110 volts. And I soldered and shrink wrapped on the terminals a plug for the wall. And what I had done was just, cut a hole for the fan in one end and cut a hole in the other end for the air to go out. And I put that pan in the box. I just put it on the floor and plugged it in. I couldn't believe it. Like an hour later, the room was nice. And we're like, hey, I was telling my publisher, I said, hey, Tom, you ready to like go in the room and chill? I got some air conditioning. He's like, and we went in the room. It's like amazing. We're watching TV, old black and white TV, and just drinking a couple beers. And that's what we did, That was the old school way of doing air conditioning, But many of those evaporative cooling type things work, but there is a limitation, of course, because it does raise the humidity, and the humidity is what makes you, feel hot in the first place, right? But nowadays, we got these amazing little things. I mean, look at this little thing. The air comes in here and goes out here. So it's blowing up like this way, not this way. This way it's blowing right in my face, see? And air's coming in here. And there's 3 speeds, like this is medium, this is high. Now you can hear that, right? This is actually, it's enough air to blow out a candle. And yeah, so like 1 doesn't really do much. I had it on medium because I'm trying to blow the mosquitoes away. So small air conditioner ever made? I don't know, but yep. The thing is, the dehumidifier makes a huge difference because if the air is dry. By the way, I want to say, I appreciate everybody watching on Twitch. I'm guessing that's Coco. It's either Coco or Dean on Twitch. But yeah, and I don't know how much, like with camping, I don't know how much like those little desiccant, packs work. You see those desiccants that work in the closet? I think they're too slow. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, but I always prefer, if I can, I prefer a fan. Or even better, I prefer an open window. Because air conditioners make my sinuses feel weird. I get this is bad. I get this kind of phlegm. And I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what it is, but it's very thick. It's sticky, and it sticks in my sinuses, kind of like, I guess, on the roof of my throat as it's going, what I'm talking about, behind my throat. And I find myself going, trying to like hawk it up and going, and making these disgusting noises. And like I woke up this morning with this. And if I have hot drinks, it helps to get it out. And I'll snort and clear my throat and just make these disgusting noises for an hour and a half. And all of a sudden it comes out and it comes into my mouth and I spit it out and it's nasty looking. I'm like, what the heck is this? But I get that from air conditioning. I can't be the only one. Air conditioning just, I wake up, I mean, when it's screaming hot, you gotta have it, okay? But I think most of the effect of it is just from being on, the dehumidifying effect of it, because it drains the water out of the air, right? And recently, several times, because my air conditioner, it's like all the new ones, it's a split system, right? So it's not really bringing any fresh air or anything like that. But it's got the, the head and then the pipes going out through the hole in the wall down to, down far below where the compressor unit is, right? But these modern systems have different kinds of modes on them. And all the ones in my house, every one that I got, I insisted that they have heaters on them too, the reverse cycle for the heat, right? But but lately, instead of going to sleep and leaving it on AC mode, which I find that sometimes when I go to sleep is fine, but by the time I wake up, I'm too cold. I just put it on dehumidifier. It's just one button. A Venturi effect water extractor. I know air is a fluid, and you know the Tesla pump is very efficient and very effective, but I've never heard of a way of extracting water from the air through movement. I mean, air, it's, you know, it is fluid dynamics, but it's not the same. And the best way that I know to get rid of air, moisture in the air, is to condense it. That's what you do. You have to condense the water vapor, and you normally do that, you know, with a temperature gradient, just like, you know, that's why you have to have a coaster on your glass, right? But the thing is, when it's cool, you know, so it is. Carburetor ice is common. And that has to do with air compression and expansion. Because, you know, if you got a tank, like I had an old propane tank, and it was really, really rusty, and I neglected it, and it was so rusty it scared me. I did not want to even bring it downstairs from my house, because I thought if I dropped it, it was so rusty that it might bust through the wall, and the thing just might go off like a bomb. So I just cracked open the valve and vented it to the atmosphere. And so I just barely cracked it open and let it run, you know, real slow. And it still iced up the whole tank, you know, so that's what's going on with carburetors. But I don't know if it was because of I said the Venturi effect. Well, you know, the thing is, right, is Venturi does compress. Yeah, I'm going to say that I'm not a good enough engineer. That's not my field to figure out how to do that. But you might be onto something. You might actually be onto something. Because what I said earlier was I don't know how. That's what I mean. I don't know how to do it, except like if you wanted me to make you a dehumidifier, I would just make something with a bunch of cold pipes, you know, that gathered the condensation out of the air. That's what I would do. So, but have you heard about how I was reading this? There's a place. It's a Middle Eastern country that has problems with not enough fresh water. But they have fog that rolls in. And I guess the fog rolls in the morning. And so they made fog nets. The fog comes in, and the moisture precipitates out of the air, and they collect it. So every day they get a huge amount, depending on, of course, the size of the fog net. I think that's really cool. Years ago, when I used to watch, of course, you know, when it was on TV, Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was an episode where Picard was supposedly on another planet, but it was turned out to be a, you know, like a vision in his mind. But they had problems with water, and he suggested atmospheric condensers. I was like, oh, that's cool, because up to that I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, atmospheric condensers, that's a way to get water. Thing is, though, if you got a developing country, they might have enough money to deploy that. Yeah, okay, so you saw the FogNet video. Yeah, that's pretty cool. They might not have enough money, you know, to deploy that. But I did read that there's a new emerging technology that allows desalinization very cheaply. And so some countries that, of course, you know, border the ocean are now taking advantage of that. So desalinization is not a bad idea, because the result too is you get all kinds of salt and chemical products. And you know, those salts that you get from the ocean are quite beneficial. And I've heard of people who would drink small amounts of seawater for the minerals. I don't know how valid that is, because I don't know how many, you know, what the ppm is for various trace minerals in seawater. But in survival situations, I forget exactly what it is, if it's 25% or 30% or whatever. If you've got like a limited amount of fresh water, there is an amount of seawater that you can add to it to stretch it, and it won't hurt you. Of course, you drink straight seawater, and I mean a lot of it, and you're going to be in trouble. But I thought that was pretty cool. Yep, and we have several dehumidifiers in our home, and the water does smell bad, and you're absolutely right. But there's something you need to think about with it, okay? And it's this. Because I was talking to some of my friends about that, and occasionally Taiwan has drought. We have, you know, water rationing. All Taiwan homes have these water tanks. I can show you, right? I can show you an example. Like, if you look at this, you see the top of the house right there? You see those tanks? We call that the sueta. Those water tanks, right? And they're always stainless, and they sit on top of the house. Every house has them, and you guys have seen me do for my roof, and you've seen the sueta from my house, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Well, the reason that we have those tanks is because we have a non-pressurized water system here, and that's how they get water pressure. The funny thing is I take my shower on the 3rd floor, where my bedroom is. My daughter's bedroom is on the 2nd floor. If I compare the water pressure that comes out of the faucet on the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor, the 2nd floor is like 4 times as great because of the gravity. And on the 1st floor, you can put out a fire with it. Okay? But anyway, but that means that all these houses have these tanks, and for some reason, if we were to be cut off, and no more water was available to go in the tank. I have 2 tanks. I don't even know how big they are. I don't know the size in gallons or liters, but they're like as tall as I am, and they're monsters. You know, it's like maybe, I mean, I would have to put my arms out like maybe 3 times to go around this tank, okay? So if tomorrow, boom, there was no water, we could probably live for well over a month. You don't take showers, you just get some alcohol wipes or baby wipes and you wipe yourself down. You just use it for drinking and for cooking, right? But I was telling one of my friends, if we ever ran out of water in Taiwan, we don't have to worry about it because we have dehumidifiers. You just run the dehumidifier all day and you've got a tank of this stuff, right? So they do in Taiwan. They absolutely do in Taiwan. So I told my friend, I said, we got, dehumidifiers. The air is humid. We just run the dehumidifier. And he says, yeah, but the water smells bad. And I said, yes, but you can treat it if you have it. And this is what I'm getting at. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. The friends of mine in Thailand own this resort, and when we say resort, it's not like you're thinking of a resort in like U.S. standards. This is just a place to take your girlfriend for a quick one. But they're cute little bungalows and stuff, and they got enough trees and bushes to cover the cars so people can't figure out who's doing what with who. But it was a really nice village, a small village, and I used to stay there a lot. I wasn't there, for that. But it was an alternative to me staying in a hotel in town, right? And I knew the owner, and it was nice, And they had they have a chef on premises, so I stayed at this place a lot. And I would walk around and I'd just look at how Mr. Bancho. We heard him talk about him. I asked him about construction and stuff and how he did things. And long story short, all the roofs had gutters, and just kind of like an American house, and the gutters had spouts, but these spouts, the downspouts, went into these huge, and I'm talking like monster. These things are like maybe 3 meters across, these huge concrete jars with these metal covers on them, right? And these things hold, thousands of gallons or liters of water that come off the roof, and they have a lid on them. And so there's a little hole, where the downspout goes in, but the rest of this big, huge, this monster concrete jar is covered. So the water goes in there, it stays, it doesn't evaporate. And I was looking at this one day, and I lifted up the cover, and I was like, oh my gosh, this water's nasty. There's like bugs swimming in it, and there's algae floating on it. And in some cases, like in my own, like those water tanks you saw, in my own water tanks, one typhoon blew the covers off. Now, I've since fixed that. But they blew the covers off, and that allowed spores to get in there, and I actually had a type of freshwater seaweed, like plants, living inside there. So what you have to do in Taiwan is periodically, like every 5 years, you have to pay somebody to go clean the tanks, and they drain the tanks. They shut off the water, drain the tanks, and it takes an hour. Water everywhere, and they go inside with a little ladder, and they scrub the whole tank down and clean it out, rinse it out, get rid of all the chemicals, and then it fills back up with water. And so I kept thinking, why are they saving this water? This water it's pointless because you can't drink it, and it's contaminated, and it's got all this like bacteria and all this stuff. If you were to take one sip of that water, you would be like in the hospital. And I was just such an idiot. Because then one day I was looking at those water tanks, and it was like all of a sudden an epiphany, and I went, wait a minute. As long as you have the water, you can treat it. The problem is if you don't have the water to start with. If you got a bunch of water and it's got problems, You can purify it. You can filter it. You can make nasty water into potable water. I mean, people take sewage water and make it potable. And that's when I realized how dumb I was. Of course, this guy's got like every one of these bungalows. He's got 12 bungalows. He's got 12 giant tanks of water that will take him through any kind of a drought. Because the truth is, if all he needed to do was like water the crops, you can just use the water like that. If his cows needed water, he wouldn't even have to purify it. He just could put it in the trough for them to drink, just like that. But can create, yes. Yes, it does. However, these days, even a lawnmower is fuel injected. I mean, I can't remember the last time. Well, I can. The last time I saw a carburetor was on the Jeep that I had in the year 2000. And I got an upgraded Edelbrock. This is funny. I got an upgraded carburetor, and it added 100 miles to a tank of gas. It was incredible. It made such an incredible difference that I had more power. It was amazing. But that was the last carbureted vehicle I ever owned. Everything else is fuel injected. So that's kind of my tip to you guys, though, is that if you are in a survival situation, capture the water any way that you can capture it, and put it in the, keep it in a tank, keep it on, whatever you can do, right? Even the dehumidifier water, like Mike says, this is what got me started on this. The dehumidifier water stinks. Yeah, but you can make it not stink. I mean, you can run it through a filter and you can boil it. You can chemically disinfect it or whatever it takes. And they do make filtration systems for survival, like the survival straw. And, you have to look at the certification on it and determine what's, the risk factor and what you're willing to do. But I got to tell you, having stinky water, contaminated water, is a whole lot better than not having any water, because you can treat it. And so once I realized that that's what was going on, I saw how he had all these huge jars everywhere, of water. Then I realized I'm really dumb, but he's very smart. Okay, now, I just got a notification from my phone that says I have less than 20%. So here's what I'm going to do. Well, I can't use that one because it's C2C. Let me do this. Let me plug the phone in. And we're going to be running into this with a live stream at Andreas's, but that's okay too. So you're exactly right. You know something, Mike? That's a very interesting thing, and I didn't realize this, but I knew some beer brewing guys, and they told me that sterility is the single most important thing when you brew beer. That all the instruments, all the implements, and Bernardo, you might find this interesting. Everything has to be super sterile, because if you don't, it changes the flavor or it makes the beer undrinkable and stuff, right? I read a study. This is about, this must have been about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, quite a while ago, where some scientists they were curious about how in medieval times beer was very popular, and they started to think about, well, they wouldn't know about. I mean, people didn't know about microorganisms. They didn't know about contamination. They didn't know about any of that stuff, right? Because that didn't start coming out until like the late 18th century, where doctors would be in the morgue doing an autopsy, and they would go up and deliver babies, and they wouldn't wash their hands, and then they had a high infant mortality rate, and then somebody finally figured it out. But back in medieval times, they didn't have a clue. So there's no way at all that they were able to use such disinfected instruments making beer. So these guys took a bunch of contaminated water and made like bathtub gin, as we used to say. They just made like the most primitive kind of beer that they could make. And what they discovered is that the beer ended up being disinfected. No matter how infected the water was that they used for the process of it becoming beer purified the water, but not only that, it remained purified. It's because you can store, apparently, not that I would, you can store open beer at room temperature. And Bernardo, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of German people prefer beer at room temperature, and the beer stein with the cover on it facilitates keeping the beer from like having debris or bugs or stuff fly into it, as you like have this huge stein of beer that you sip on all evening, and it remains like at room temperature. It's not like it's chilled. And so I was reading that, I was like, absolutely, that's just so fantastic. And boil water at baby delivery time, awesome. Well, yeah, the idea would be that you want to be able to have sterile water for washing your hands and for cleanup and stuff like that. But I thought that was absolutely amazing. It's what freaks me out is like, how do people know stuff that we're just discovering now? How do they know it back then? How did people know that if they had contaminated water, they could make beer out of it and they could drink it? The only way is by doing it. Then this became common knowledge, then everybody would just do it, right? And I just think that's just so amazing. So, I guess if you're stuck somewhere in the forest and you have some way to collect water, or you're in some survival situation, so maybe like with Mr. Banchob and his 12 giant jars of water, maybe you could just make beer and just drink it. But that's what happened. These guys did everything wrong. They didn't use sterile stuff. Because I knew a beer maker, and he was very meticulous. I heard one guy say that he has to clean his instruments 3 times before he uses it. Like each time, each cleaning is like a level, and he levels up and he levels up, and he cleans the implements to a greater degree, and then he makes the beer. And the reason they do that is because, like I was saying, if you're trying to make a specific formula of beer and you don't get it right, I mean, if there's a contamination problem, then it changes the flavor. But I guess if you're in medieval times and you're just worried about whether you have enough liquids that you can drink, to keep you alive, I guess you don't really care all that much about the flavor, and the fact that it's alcoholic on the kind of is a bonus, right? And some things seem to be geared towards that. For example, Let me tell you something from ancient Hebrew history. Um, the Levite class was not allowed to drink alcohol. Okay, these were a tribe of Israelites that were assigned to serve at the temple. Okay, and they were not allowed to drink alcohol, but they were also not allowed to even taste grape juice, not just wine. They couldn't even taste grape juice. And I always wondered why that was. I would read about that, in the Bible and in history. I go, why? Okay, I understand, they're okay. So these guys are priests and they're sacred. They shouldn't be drinking alcohol. But why can't they drink grape juice? And so I did some research, and I found out it's really bizarre. But of course, we're talking about a time without refrigeration. So how they used to do it was they would have like a pit, like a square pit, and they would put the grapes in it, and then they had like an A-frame and a top bar, and the men would hold on to the bar and they would stomp on the grapes. They would just stomp on them to break them all up. And that was the wine press. And then the runoff would run through a trough down to a lower section where they would take it for fermentation. But it turns out that in those climates, that the fermentation process starts in a matter of a few hours. And it could be that if a Levite took some of this supposedly fresh squeezed grapes, that they might already have started to ferment and produce alcohol. And I was like, wow, I did not know that. So, oh my goodness, the moon. Oh, you guys, let me read this, Mike, okay? That's bad. Now, you guys know I'm a huge fan of the moon, right? Excuse me. And yesterday was the last day of the full moon this year, and I missed it. It was a super moon. I got a glimpse of it on, what was it? Monday night. Just because it's been partly cloudy and rainy, and so Monday night I got a glimpse of the moon. It was huge. And I see her now, the queen of the night, through its gibbous. So it's waning gibbous, but it's still probably about 80% or 85%. Oh, and the clouds are starting to break. That makes me feel better. Now I wish that light wasn't there so I could just see the moon, but oh man, I just noticed that. I'm a huge fan of the moon. And if I don't see the full moon at any given month, I don't like it. I'm not going to say I feel weird or anything like that, but I feel like I'm robbed, because I love it. And yeah, the moon I'm a huge fan. And I had a telescope when I was a kid. My dad bought me a telescope, and I've done a tremendous amount of lunar astronomy in my youth, and I just, but I have an app on my phone, and I look forward to and I keep track of the phases, and I look forward to the full moon, and I teach my daughter about this, and we also love it when in the western sky at night there's the tiniest little sliver of just the beginning, right after the new moon. There's usually 4 days of new moon, or 3 days of new moon. And so after that, the first day, and you see that little sliver, it's amazing. But she's, oh yeah, from this, there's a bunch of trees there, and she almost looks full, and there's a lot of cloud activity, and that reminds me so much of those Lon Chaney Jr. werewolf movies, right? So I think what I'm saying about this, about the grapes and stuff, was that if you were washed up on an island and found that you had grapes. You could crush them and leave them in the sun, and they would ferment. And if they ferment, I think that means it kills the the bacteria and the nasty stuff, right? So just like the beer. It turns out that's why so much beer was made in medieval times, because they didn't have a way to purify the water, and that's what did it. So, wow. So much has been lost. When I think sometimes of all the information that the ancients had that's lost, like for example, Greek fire. Of course, I'm kind of glad that was lost, because that would be used for bad purposes. But Greek fire, are you kidding me? Where a fire starts and you throw water on it to extinguish it, and it just makes it worse, makes it flare up even more. I mean, have you ever heard of such a thing? That's outrageous. So yeah. But I'm sorry that I wasn't able to stream in 360 tonight, because I got the 360 camera running and it keeps starting new files, which is good. I've got an hour and 25 minutes left worth of recording on it. Wow, that's great. Got a big card. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That makes total sense. So you don't have. I mean, these days it's so finely controlled that they have different strains of yeast that they use. But just in the wild, yeah. I mean, obviously, in ancient times they had some knowledge of that, but they also knew that you could just crush them and it would start fermenting. My friend Andreas is a master of that, and when I go there on Monday, I'm going to see what he's got. Last time I went there, he goes, "Go in the ice box." I said, "Okay." So he got an ice box in the shop, and there's a big jug of banana wine. Oh. And there wasn't an ounce of headache. Wine sometimes gives me a headache. That banana wine, and he had another one. It wasn't mango. It was, anyway, he had another wine made by some local fruit. Of course, everything grows here. And there's even, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a native Taiwan cinnamon tree. It's a type of cassia. But when I was in East Taiwan 2 years ago, we took a little vacation and went to Ilan, one of my favorite places, and we went around to different areas, and we had a little tour at a tea farm. And it's nice because it was small, kind of husband and wife sort of thing, and it wasn't a big commercial process. And we had some tea, ice cream, and other stuff that they made there. It was great. But one of the things that she pointed out to this tree, and she said it's real gui su, and I'm like, really? Okay, so it's a cinnamon tree, and of course it's cassia. Now you have to be careful with cassia. If you live in the States or a country that has like McCormick spices and you get McCormick cinnamon, it's cassia, and you have to be careful with cassia because it has a chemical that damages the liver. I remember reading on, probably the McCormick message board about one woman called herself the cinnamon queen. I put it on everything. I was like, well, you better be careful. You better do some research because you put it on everything. And the type of cinnamon that doesn't have that problem is the Sri Lankan. That's what I use mostly, Sri Lankan cinnamon. I use Sri Lankan cinnamon like 100 to 1 with the cassia. But anyway, that being said, the cassia type still has that has the flavor that we associate, with cinnamon. And I took a couple leaves off the tree and I chewed them up, and it was amazing. So Oh, that's terrible. That's bad. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, have you tried Sri Lankan cinnamon, or are you going to be allergic to that too? Because it's from a tree, but it's a different kind of tree. So, tree fruits. Oh, so I guess pine nuts and stuff like that are kind of out for you, huh? I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's too bad. Oh, the clouds have covered up the queen of the night again. What I was going to do was I was going to go on the roof of my house tonight, where I have Wi-Fi connectivity from my home, and I was going to do a 360 from the roof of my house with the moon, because my house was 4 stories, and of course then the roof would be the 5th floor, so it's up high, and it's kind of interesting. You guys have seen before, so. All right, there's one more thing I want to talk about. A couple of weeks ago. Now, I do a lot of mixing and mastering work for different people, and I have a number of studio clients, and they keep me busy. It's really great. Anyway, occasionally, I do stuff for different people that you might consider stars, whatever. They're just normal people to me. I had done a live stream from the High Life a couple of weeks ago, and I played a mix that I did for an 80s star named William Pitt. And that says it's stopping recording, but I wonder why. Start recording. Start recording. I'll just press the button. This is where when I said William Pitt. Stop recording. I don't get that. So I was doing some mixing for him, and I told him I thought the song was a hit. And what I did was, in the High Life stream, I actually played the mix that I did. I turned my camera off and I played it, and it sounded really nice, and it was good for earbuds, and I did a good mix for him. I worked hard on it, and I slaved over the string orchestration section, and I used MIDI, and I was very meticulous, and I used some incredible orchestral samples. They're real sounds. I just used a MIDI keyboard to program the parts, and I kind of massaged it in the editor, but the strings were they're beyond belief. And so I said, I think this song's a hit, you should release it. So he wrote back to me, he said, okay, I agree, I think it could be a hit, so what do I do next? So I said, well, give me a call. So we had a conversation. Now, William Pitt had a big hit in 1986 called City Lights, and he had another follow-up hit a couple of years later. The guy can really sing, and he's a good writer and stuff, but after our conversation, I don't know how to describe it, and I don't want to say anything, bad or even actionable, or defamation, but he's got this thing about trying to revive, the William Pitt thing. He wants to be known as William Frederick Pate, which is his real name. The reason that they changed his name, record company changed his name to Pitt, is because his family name, P-A-T-E, he was in France, and that's pâté. And so there's actually 2 different ways that you can say that. So no matter what, he would be associated with the food. The record company said, no, we're going to change your name to Pitt. But he's got this thing, it's kind of a hang-up. But I pointed out that his email address was aka.williampitt@. And I said, look, you just can't get away from him. And there's nothing wrong with capitalizing on, your previous, fame, which is what I do with my records, right? Because I was a recording artist, and going way back. I mean, anyway, I don't want to go into that. So he wrote me this long email, and he completely misconstrued everything I said. And I sent him another email. I said, no, that's not what I meant. He thinks that, or he said in the email that he thought that what I wanted to do was revitalize the William Pitt career and resurrect him. I said, no. And besides, the fact is, if I'm working as a recording engineer and I'm doing a mix and I'm mastering it, I don't have anything to do with the promotion of it. This is what's so bizarre. So he flaked out. And he said over and out, and he signed out, and he killed his email address because I sent him a reply and it bounced. So because I had talked about him so much in that previous live stream and I'd actually played that song, I made that live stream private. Because for me to extract all that stuff would have just, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. So, it's off the radar. But what I did was, I mean, I had his phone number in Switzerland. I don't care. Listen, man. Do you know how many rock stars I know? I don't care who you are. I'm not impressed enough to kowtow, you know. And it's like, you know, I had his phone number in Switzerland. I deleted it. I deleted every email conversation that we had, and I went up to my studio computer and I deleted every single project that I had, which was considerable, every single mix that I did for him, and the automation for the console automation system. I deleted all of it. I have, what's the word, sanitized my life from William Frederick Pate. And I will say this. I think he's ill. That's all I'm going to say. I think he's ill. I don't have any animosity towards him, and I know it probably sounded like I do based on what I just said. But I don't. The reason I sanitized my life of him is because I could take a hint. If somebody sends me a farewell message and then shuts off the email that they used so that you can't reply to them, that's pretty clear. Yeah, I know. Oh no, Dean. Yeah, I know. But, you know, I don't need to produce, you know, a William Pitt record in order to be known. I already have a discography. I'm well known. I was one of the most prolific recording engineers and record producers in Boston in the 80s and 90s anyway. I've done like 500 sessions. I don't need that to validate me, you know, so anyway, I did all this work for him for nothing. And I told him on the phone, the reason I want to do this is because I understand that now, the guy's in his mid-70s, you got nothing to show for it. All this stuff that you did years ago, and I have many friends of mine in the music business that spent, you know, 270, 300 or more days a year touring and working in the studio, and they got nothing to show for it. They don't have any money. And I told them I don't want any money. I just want to do it because this stuff was great, so. Yeah. It's funny, but Brad Pitt's real name is William. Not the same guy. Still, anyway. I mean, the truth is, after I got done talking with William about producing this song called Like a Butterfly, and you guys heard it, remember? You heard it, didn't you, Mike? And you did too, I think, Dean. I actually had a conversation with a mutual friend about asking one of the most famous producers in the world to maybe step in and take over if he could handle that tune better than I, because I didn't care about the credit. And when I talk about that producer, you guys know who I'm talking about, because that's the producer I told you that I had met last year. And actually, Mike, you should know because you have the same family name, the same surname. So I was talking to a mutual friend about maybe asking him if, basically I was asking a mutual friend, should I ask him if he'd be interested in producing this record for this guy, because he hasn't actually done a real record release since the 90s. And then I got, essentially, it was nasty. The email was nasty. He was talking down to me. He was not cordial. He was talking down to me, and yeah, I understand he's older than me, but he's okay. So he's 75. I'm 66. Come on. Really? Yeah. Okay. All right. I hate to say it, guys, but I had a hit when I was in high school. So I don't need anybody to talk down to me. It's like, it's just crazy. But you guys that have known me for a long time, you know that it's not like that with me. It isn't about the star factor or any of that stuff. It's about the tune. It's about the music. How's the music? Is it good? Can you sing? Was the take good? Did you convey it correctly? The way that you wanted to get across, and how can we maximize the hook and get more emotional impact and more detail, on the mix. That's what it's about. So I just want to let you know that William Pitt has chosen to, I guess, the only way I can say it is he ghosted me, I guess. So good for you. The good news is, though, that I spent so much time on the orchestral parts, and I learned a great deal from that. I'm always learning. Every time I do it's amazing. Every time I do a new session, I learn so many new things. I mean, I worked in the old days, of course, on 2-inch analog tape, right, with consoles and API consoles mostly, but pretty much every major brand of recording console and tape machine, I've worked with all of them. But more importantly, the vintage outboard gear like the LA2As, the optical tube compressors and the like the 1176 and the Pultec EQs. I've worked with all that stuff. So with the modern DAWs, we have digital audio workstations. We have digital software recreations of all these things. It's amazing. You just click on it, and there it is. It's like, whoa, there's an LA2A. Unlimited numbers. See, we only had 2 in Fleetwood. And that was a lot. People would come to the studio and they would go like, wow, you got 2 of those. I was like, yeah. So it's great because I can use them on the master bus, the stereo. But having all this stuff available in the DAW is so amazing, because you can have so many instances of it. Every single thing in the mix that you need, you can have an LA2A or an 1176 on. And I'm not exactly used to that, because we only had one 1176. We had 2 LA2As and we had one Pultec. And so you had to be very careful what you used it on, if you wanted to have it free later for the mix. So let me see what you say. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, the thing is, right, is the thing that we didn't realize back then was how amazing the music really was. I mean, I'm 66, so back about almost exactly 20 years ago, when I was working for Cybex International, the exercise equipment company, I was a staff manufacturing engineer for that company at the time. This was about maybe 2 years prior to my moving to Taiwan. There was a job in North Carolina that I had to do where we had to do a retrofit of some of the treadmills where the hand grips where you had the heart rate. Yeah, the sensors were not working, and they had, I forget how many, maybe 12 or 15 or something. So I took a kit of a bunch of parts, and I went down there and I retrofitted those over like a 2-day period. And so I stayed with my sister because she's like an hour away. And I had brought some CDs with me. And my sister has 3 boys, and at the time I think there were like 8. Maybe like 11, 16, and 18 or 19, something like that. Okay. So we're gonna say like junior high through, I guess they call it middle school now, through high school. So hey Matthew, fist bump. Good to see you, man. We missed you, man. Good to see you. So I brought my favorite CDs with me, and I was, I showed my nephews and was playing these tunes and stuff like that, and I went to do these jobs, and I went back to my sister's house and said, okay, I'm all done. I'm going to drive back up to Boston. And she said, okay, nice having you with us, blah, blah, blah. I love you, all this stuff. I said, okay, great. So I packed my car and I split. And when I got home, I realized my AC/DC Back in Black and my Queen 2 CDs were missing. So I called my sister and I said, hey, I think your boys, I think they're going to be all right. And she says, why? So I told her, I said, well, they stole some really great music. And she busted out laughing. It's hilarious. Because a friend of mine did the same thing. This is quite a while ago. This probably would have been about 98. And I went over to his house and I was talking to him. He says, I think my son, he's going to be okay. Because all parents worry about that, right? They worry about their kids, what's going to happen, how they're going to turn out. And he says, I think my son's going to be okay. I said, really? Well, I mean, that's great, but I mean, what was the thing that made you say that? And he said, well, I can't find my Led Zeppelin 2 anthology or my golf clubs. I said, really? He said, yeah. So I took his car keys and I opened the trunk of his car, and my golf clubs are in there. I was like, okay. So he's got the Led Zeppelin too. He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, don't worry. He's going to be okay. So this 80s stuff, man. And if you look at like YouTube, which I call YouTube University, all these music channels, they talk about all this mixing stuff and all this. It's just crap. It's just because it starts with the writing, and all this stuff like Neuron, make your mixes shine, and unmask and all this stuff. What they're shining and what they're unmasking is they're polishing turds because the music sucks, and it really does. And I gotta tell you, I was reminiscing, and of course it just makes you sound like an old fart, but look, okay, so it was, David Bowie, the Eagles, Seals and Crofts, it was Bad Company, Foreigner, Queen. I mean, all this stuff one after the other, just on the, Cat Stevens. I mean, just a huge, wide range of stuff. Then Gordon Lightfoot would come on, and it was amazing listening to 80s. And there was Steve Miller, and there was Hart. I mean, you guys that didn't live through that era, I feel sorry for you. Because, Rick Beato talks about this, and he frequently talks about the Spotify top 10, and it's dismal. You want to spin, the cylinder and take a chance, because it's just like, it absolutely sucks. Okay, good. Well, there's a house back there, and this is natural light. I mean, there's a street lamp here, but yeah. But the thing is unless you grew up with that background, I mean, at 66 years old, I'm getting mixing and mastering work that I never thought I would get, because I thought that I would be considered too old. For example, I don't mix in the DAW. I don't use the master bus and a mouse and all that stuff and have, thousands of plugins. I use a console, with the audio engines on the console. It's a different concept. It's an older concept. If you look at guys like Chris Lord Alge and these other big mixers, they still use consoles, even today. And there's a reason why, because it has a certain sound to it, But I am, like what I do sometimes for people is I run across these tunes somewhere, like maybe on a forum or something, right? And I can hear the potential. I go, wow, that song sounds like a hit. It sounds really great. And I'll contact, the artist. And I'll say, would you mind if I did a mix for you? All I need is the original tracks. I don't need, your DAW project or nothing. Just give me the raw tracks. And when they do, and I come back with a mix, almost every single time, and this is not why I do it, by the way, but almost every single time, they're impressed and they ask me to do another record for them, or another mix for them. And in the case of one gentleman, actually two gentlemen, performers that I did mixes for, have hired me to finish an entire album for them. And they're like, I didn't know what to do. I can't find anybody that can mix my records, like this. They're a bunch of kids on Fiverr, and, they don't know anything, and they're just, yeah. But, a lot of people, right, they're paying their dues and they're suffering for it, but, the music industry isn't designed to help people create music, and it's not designed to help artists, to produce things, to produce output, and make things happen. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And it's, I think it's important, but for me, it's not about money. Of course, they want to pay me, that's fine. In the case of the albums, the guys definitely want to pay me because they had a budget, but they were going to waste it on some kid on Fiverr who would just, and so I do the extra mile. I do a lot of editing work that needs to be done, and I won't settle on it, if it's not right, I won't do it. And I think that's most people, I think, with integrity are like that. I had a mechanic that worked on my car all day, had a carburetor problem, and I went to pick it up, and I said, how much? And he said, no charge. And I said, why? He says, I couldn't get it right. I worked on it all day, I couldn't get it right. I go, but you can't do that. He said, I mean, you worked on it all day, and just because you couldn't get it right, it's not your fault. You said, because there's a problem with the carburetor. He said, yeah, it needs to be replaced. And I said, okay, well, I want you to replace it. I'm going to schedule, and I'll pay you for that. I mean, that's okay, right? I mean, because I got to pay you for something. And he said, yeah, if you just, yeah, that's fine. But Analog is better in some respects, but I will tell you this. My mixing console is digital, and I use the Dante system audio. So I have a Dante audio network. I have an analog console, you guys know this, but I mix with my ear towards analog, and everybody that hears my mixes says to me that they sound warm like analog. And you guys heard that, that William Pitt song, which is amazing because I don't have a copy of it anymore. The only copy that I have in my possession is on that live stream that I have now made private and won't share anymore. It's getting cloudier. Yeah, the moon's all hidden. But analog definitely has its advantages. And I love the analog console. And what I'm going to do eventually, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost a heck of a lot of money. But I'm eventually going to get an analog to Dante converter system where I can put all 32 channels of my analog mixing console on the network and use that for tracking and mastering. Excuse me, for tracking and mixing. And maybe even mastering through the console, because I think it's important. Anyway, all right, you guys, listen. You know what time it is? It is 2:45 in the morning. That's right. It's 2:45. I need to get back home. My wife hasn't called me because she trusts me and she knows what I'm doing, but yeah, I agree. But I need to get back to the house, need to take a shower, and need to prepare for tomorrow. Got some things going on tomorrow I got to take responsibility for, so I think I'm going to end here. We've been on the air for an hour and 43 minutes. I really appreciate it. I know I've been neglecting you all. I appreciate it, and I just want to say I love all you guys, and I miss you, but life has been getting in the way. I have been having problems with chronic pain. They seem to be under control, and I have been busy in the studio, but big finger, right? I know. I haven't done that in a long time. Bernardo, thank you. Bernardo, you've been so quiet. Especially when we're talking about beer, man. We're talking about, beer and, the purification and all that stuff. So we missed a lot of folks tonight. But I appreciate Rob coming in earlier, and Jay Boy didn't come in, which, anyway, we're also glad to have Eric back in the fold. But Eric's been kind of not feeling too good. So you guys get a chance, give Eric a blast on Telegram or online, and tell him you're thinking about him, okay? Because it'll brighten his day. But big finger time. That's really funny that you say that, Matthew, because I haven't done that for a while. You guys take care. Big fist bump to all you guys. It's not a punch. It's a fist bump. Boom. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, okay? So this is like from the Periscope days. So you guys take care. And here's the big finger. You guys ready? Oh, here it is. Oh, no. It's even getting black. Ah! Too fun.